Hi, my name is Joseph Parker, WBO champion of the world, and you're watching Sporting Icons.
Okay, so the WBC have released their new rankings. In this video, as always, when we talk about the heavyweight division. Now, as I always cover these rankings as best I can, we'll see what the hoo-ha is all about. And I think I know what a lot of people are complaining about. But we'll go through their new top 15. We'll see what kind of changes they have made. Then we'll critique it or praise it where needed, of course. But WBC will do what they always do, regardless. Okay, which is why I don't think that they're a fit-for-purpose organisation. I really don't. Anyway, let's go through the new top 15. So the WBC World Heavyweight Champion and undisputed Heavyweight World Champion is Alexander Usyk. Number 1, Anthony Joshua. Number 2, Tyson Fury. Number 3, Ajit Kabayel. Number 4, Zhilei Zhang. Number 5, F.A. Jagba. Number 6, Jared Anderson. Number 7, Mark Bacoli. Number 8, Frank Sanchez. Number 9, Joe Joyce. Number 10, Bakodir Jalolov. Number 11, Fabio Wardley. Number 12, Arslanbek Makhmudov. Number 13, Filip Herkovich. Number 14, Luis Ortiz. And number 15, Deontay Wilder. There you have it. The new top 15 for WBC for the month of June. Dropped out, Daniel Dubois. Now, for those who haven't been keeping up with the rankings and watching these particular videos, shame on you. But the reason why Daniel Dubois has been dropped is because he's the IBF interim world heavyweight champion. And the reason why a Joe Joyce is not on here is because he's the WBO interim world heavyweight champion. Interim champions will not be ranked by other organisations. Okay, so that's the reason why. Now, of course, the biggest hoo-ha of what I'm seeing is why Tyson Fury is ranked at number 2 behind Anthony Joshua, being that he is former WBC world heavyweight champion. Now, I can see arguments from both sides. When I've done your and my rankings, the top 25, we also have Anthony Joshua above Tyson Fury. But that's based on resume, who they've fought, and, of course, recent form. And that as well. Tyson Fury's recent form hasn't been too good. And, of course, where a lot of people criticise Anthony Joshua for losing to Alexander Usyk, well, he gave a better performance against Alexander Usyk than Tyson Fury did in the rematch, of course. But there's reasons to believe that maybe Tyson Fury should be above Anthony Joshua, especially within the WBC, as he is former WBC World Heavyweight Champion. Have they done him dirty? Potentially, because for me to take that side, I do have to look at their history, and their history was, well, Deontay Wilder was former WBC World Heavyweight Champion, got knocked out against Tyson Fury, but retained, or got set as the number 1 in the WBC. He took a third fight with Tyson Fury, got knocked out again. What happened? He retained his number 1 position. And it wasn't until he fought Parker, and then, of course, more recently, Zhilei Zhang, that he started to move down the rankings of WBC. So they certainly showed some favouritism and bias towards Deontay Wilder that they haven't shown Tyson Fury. So if any organisation is going to rank Tyson Fury above Anthony Joshua, it would be the WBC, you would have thought. But that said, now, as far as the other ones are concerned, number 3, Ajit Kabayel, that's a little too high, in my opinion. Again, some people will disagree with that one because he does have wins over Arslanbek Makhmudov and, of course, with Frank Sanchez. Now, he was very fortunate in both those fights. You could say Makhmudov, he broke his hand in the first or second round. So, of course, that would certainly help Ajit Kabayel. And with Frank Sanchez, it's rumoured that he went into the fight with an injury. But ultimately, you could look at it and say, well, Ajit Kabayel's, that's not his problem, is it? He turned up and he got the win, regardless of any kind of circumstances behind it. Maybe he would have beat them anyway. I'm more interested to see who it is that he fights next. He seems to be well in with the Saudis, and rightfully so. But for me, he's always going to have that cloud over him because he did vacate the European heavyweight title rather than fight his mandate in Joe Joyce at the time. So that kind of puts into question his heart at times. It does. But anyway, he's on a good run of form. Number 4, Zhilei Zhang. I mean, yeah, okay, I can kind of see that. Obviously, he does have a win over a Deontay Wilder. He's knocked out Joe Joyce twice. And he gave a head of account of himself against Filip Herkovich, when many believe he beat Filip Herkovich and got jobbed. But that said, he did lose to Joseph Parker. Again, you could argue, well, Zhilei Zhang, it was a very, very close fight, that one. And he was in control of that fight. The fact that he dropped Parker on a couple of occasions, and he pretty much gave the fight away in the last few rounds because he didn't do anything. But again, if you don't nick the last couple of rounds, you probably can lose the fight. There's always that argument. But a win over Wilder, would that warrant a lofty position? No, not really. I've always said that when Wilder steps up, he loses. And I've said to you guys for years that if he fights a Joseph Parker, Parker beats him. And look what happened, even now. Number 5, F.A. Jagba. Why is he so high? Who's he beat? Again, he's lost to a Frank Sanchez. So why is he so high? Who's he beaten? He's only been fighting gate-level fighters or journeymen. That's pretty much what he's been fighting. So why is he so high? When he fights somebody with a pulse, let's see what happens. And maybe he can warrant this kind of position. I don't know why him and Jared Anderson end fighting each other as they're both signed under Top Rank. That would have been the ideal fight to make, really, wouldn't it? But it is what it is. Speaking of Jared Anderson, number 6. Now he's going to be taking on Martin Bakole next, who's ranked number 7. So maybe this is why the WBC have done it. Because they're fighting each other. Because for Jared Anderson, okay, he doesn't hold any kind of great wins. His best wins probably, Charles Martin? Would that be arguable? Potentially, maybe. His last-minute replacement, of course. But he looked gash in that fight. He looked terrible in that fight. In fact, he hasn't been looking good his last couple of fights. But he has etched out the wins, and that's ultimately what's important. And if he beats a Martin Bakole, I think that he warrants a 6th position. He does. Maybe even a number 5. And I mean, that is pushing it a little bit, I will say. Martin Bakole, number 7. I said he's going to be fighting Jared Anderson next. But the fact that he's jumped 3 positions within the last couple of weeks. Well, what's he done since Carlos Takam? Has he had a fight since then? If he has, I've totally missed it. Because he hasn't beaten anybody, Martin Bakole. He just hasn't. You could say Tony Yoka, but since then, Tony Yoka's lost to Carlos Takam. And he lost to the other fellow, was it Riyad Mary, I think his name was? Who Jared Anderson's just recently beaten. So how good was that win for Martin Bakole over Tony Yoka? I mean, let's not forget, Martin Bakole tried to quit against Michael Hunter and got knocked out by Michael Hunter. But would a win over Jared Anderson, would that justify number 7 position? Arguably. Number 8, Frank Sanchez. Well, the fact that he quit in his last fight. Now, I know some people say he carried an injury into that fight. Well, he chose to continue with the fight, ultimately. So, as I said before, it's not Ashik Cabial's fault or problem. And if that's true, then, well, that's his own fault, isn't it? For me, I've never rated Frank Sanchez. I've always said it. And I know he's got a bit of a following. And some people, that kind of hurts their feelings. I don't know why, unless you know him personally. But for me, I've never really rated him. But in time, who knows? Maybe he'll turn it around and he could become the top dog in the heavyweight division. Maybe he had a blip. Maybe he genuinely was injured and he should have pulled out and didn't. And that happens a lot in boxing. I know people personally who have taken fights and lost, and they shouldn't have taken the fights to start with due to injuries or sickness or whatever else. So, interested to see what Frank Sanchez does next. Number 9, Joe Joyce. He's moved up 2 positions. Why? Why has he moved up 2 positions? Okay, so he got stopped twice by Zhilei Zhang. Is what it is. And now he's going to be taking on... Well, last time out he fought Cash Ali, okay? And now he's going to be fighting Derek Chisora. Derek Chisora, who practically everybody's beaten, haven't they? I like Derek Chisora, by the way. He's always good entertainment. But number 9 right now seems a little high. Granted, he does have a knockout win over Joseph Parker, and he does have a knockout win over Daniel Dubois. So would that justify number 9 position? Yeah, probably. Certainly top 10. But anyway, we'll have to wait and see what happens with the Derek Chisora fight and what he does after then. Number 10, Bakodir Jalolov. Excellent amateur, we know that. My only problem with Jalolov, as much as I like him, and he is devastating, that's for sure, is the fact that he can't make his mind up if he's amateur or pro. He'll have a few pro fights, then put that on hold and go back to the amateur system, then go back to the pro game, then go back to the amateur system, then go back to the pro game. For me, I totally disagree with that. If you're a pro, you stay a pro. That's how it should be. But who's he really beaten to justify a top 10 position? Well, he hasn't beaten anybody. Now, he's been looking spectacular, and arguably he could beat a Bakole or an Anderson or a Jagba and these kind of guys. Well, let's see it. We need to see it. That's what we do. We really need to see it. Number 12, Arsenbek Makhmudov. He's moved up 2 positions since he's lost to Ajit Kabiel, he has had a fight where he punched a guy so hard that the guy fell through the ropes. So he's back to his big, strong, powerful ways. Was it a blip against Ajit Kabiel because he did break his hand in the first or second round? Maybe. But again, as I said before, not Ajit Kabiel's problem, I suppose. And when I interviewed Arslan Makhmudov, he does seem very confident in himself. He really does. So again, let's see what he does next. I'd quite like to see him take on a Jagba. I would. They both have links with Top Rank, so why not? 13 for Perkovic. He's dropped down 5 positions. Of course, he got stopped by Dan Dubois. Was Dan Dubois cheating in that fight, going in with a head and all these kind of things? Yeah, probably. But again, you kind of fight until the referee tells you not to, really. So could you really blame Dan Dubois? No. Is this a Don King fighter trait? Kind of. If you kind of look at the way Derek Chisora fights, he goes in with his head, he throws the low blows. Dan Dubois seems to be moulding into a Derek Chisora, as in the fighting style. But Filip Perkovic dropping down 5 positions, well, he's got a bit of a road back, hasn't he? Could he get back into it again? Yeah, he could do. I mean, he's still got time on his side. He's not an old man by any stretch of the imagination. Let's see him take on Joe Joyce. That'd be an interesting one. If Joe Joyce gets past Derek Chisora, which you would presume that he would, but if he doesn't, then where does Joe Joyce go after then? It's very difficult to say. But I'd like to see Filip Perkovic fight a Joe Joyce. I would. Luis Ortiz, number 14. I mean, he got battered by Andy Ruiz Jr. And since then, he's had 1 fight against a journeyman. I think he had, 18 losses, if my memory serves me correct. He fought a guy who had a lot of losses, who was quite clearly a journeyman, and that was back in January. So why has he gone up a position? PBC fighter. The WBC seem to love PBC fighters, which is surprising to me that Andy Ruiz Jr. is not ranked in here because of that. Number 15, Deontay Wilder has dropped down 8 positions after getting knocked out by Zhilei Zhang. But as I said beforehand, even though he got knocked out twice by Tyson Fury, he still maintained his number 1 position. So in his last 5 fights, he's lost 4 times, 3 of those by knockout. So he's won 1 fight in his last 5 fights, but yet he's maintained a top 15 position. How does that work? It doesn't work, does it? It really doesn't. But anyway, that is a new top 15. The biggest discussion will be, should Anthony Joshua be number 1, Tyson Fury number 2? Should it be the other way around? I suppose that's on you lot. Drop your thoughts below, click thumbs up, subscribe. Catch you next video.